Welcome to the MSL 411, a podcast designed to equip both aspiring and experienced MSLs with the resources they need to level up their career toolkit. The heart of this podcast is to take the same industry knowledge and advice that we share with our own candidates and make it available and accessible to anyone looking for answers. So if you have questions, you've come to the right place. We're here to give you the 411. And without further ado, let's dive right in.
Hey, and welcome back to the MSL 411 podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about active job searching versus passively listening to new opportunities, what you should be keeping in mind, whatever stage you might find yourself in, and some tips you may not have thought of. So, Linda, if you are somebody who would consider themselves passively listening to new opportunities, or not actively job searching, but you are seeing things online, hearing about things from your recruiter that might pique your interest, or things that come by way of your network from other MSLs you may know. How do you filter through those things when you're in more of a passively listening stage?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different tips I would give. I'll narrow it down to probably the most important. First, I would say just being open to listening to new opportunities. When you're passively job searching, I think the tendency sometimes is to, no thanks, I'm good. Thanks for calling, but no thanks. And so, as recruiters, especially, we hear that a lot where we don't even get to get the point across of what we're working on, and sometimes it's something we really know you're going to enjoy. So, I would say just being open to those conversations, whether it's people in your network or your recruiter. If they're contacting you about something in your area, if it's a trusted recruiter, especially, chances are it's going to be something you're going to be very interested in. So. It may be something in your desired disease state or therapeutic area, something you didn't even know was out there, maybe something at your dream company that you mentioned one time that your recruiter has in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
So you may not even know how exciting this opportunity is. So chances are, if you listen to it, it's either going to be the right thing falling into your lap at the right time, or it's not the right time. And that's okay too. We're not going to be offended as recruiters if you say, wow, that's really exciting, but I'm all set here, actually. Thank you for sharing it with me, though. It's no harm, no foul. We just want to make sure you're aware. So I would say just being open to those conversations. Also, when you do have a trusted recruiter relationship, keeping them in the loop about what is going to pique your interest. So whether it be a disease state, whether it be a company name, like I said, whether it be something to do with the job itself, like covering fewer states so that you're home with your family more, or getting to do more special projects, or getting to work a little bit more on the managed care side, or having HEOR responsibilities, anything like that that's going to hold special interest for you, allows your recruiter to put that alert in their mind that when something like that comes across their desk, it may not have all of the check marks to tick off all your interests, but it may have one or two, and it's worth a call to you. So it allows them to have your name come up as the first thought in their mind when these jobs come across their desk.
Yeah.
So again, if you've told your recruiter what's going to be most exciting for you and they're calling you, take those calls because they have a good reason for calling you. It's something possibly that you've said, I would be super interested. If you ever see something like this, I would love to know what's out there. And so, super important to make sure that your recruiter, your network, however you're hearing about these jobs, is in the know on what's going to be exciting for you and what's not. So it kind of cuts down on a lot of those calls that don't make any sense for you. So definitely keeping those lines of communication open and being open to those conversations at all times. And then third thing I would say, we say this all the time, so I'm probably beating a dead horse, but keeping your resume up to date and in good shape. It's a living document. Consider it a living document. It should be updated as you have new responsibilities added to your role, as you have new titles. So taking the time quarterly, if possible, or at the very least, every half year. So when you have maybe the Christmas holiday slowdown or in the summer slowdown, a lot of companies give time off during that point. So it's a great reminder and a great period during the year for you to sit down and just say, okay, what have I done over the past 3 months, 6 months, however long it is? Have I had any new responsibilities added? Did I get to do anything cool, like be a conference lead? Did I take on any new projects? What are my quantifiable things that I can notate on my resume? So just kind of thinking through those things. If you do it just once a year or even less frequently, or just when you find yourself in a lurch and are scrambling to apply for new jobs because of a layoff or an impending layoff, something like that, you might not have everything as fresh in your mind. So definitely keeping your resume as up to date at all times as possible, even if you're passively job searching, because this industry changes so
Yes,
fast.
and being thrust into the active
Yeah.
category, it's going to be harder to look those things up. So when you're in that more passive stage, take the time that you have.
Yes.
Yes, definitely a good tip. And one thing that listeners, viewers might not understand about the times that they do take a call from a recruiter, even if they're not actively looking, is those are learning
Mhm.
opportunities that ultimately benefit you. When we tell you about a new position, even if you tell us you're not interested, which is not offensive to us, by the way, that's perfectly fine. We are listening and we are learning. So, what we're gathering from that conversation, I may call you about 6 months, a year from now and say, hey,
Mhm.
remember when we talked about this? Well, this has come up and I think that you should listen to it. And whether you're in an active or passive job search. And so we're really in that listening phase.
Mhm.
And um, the reasons why you're telling us no matter just as much as
Mhm.
when you tell us yes, because that's building that rapport, it's building that kind of knowledge base for the future that we can lean on. And when that perfect opportunity does pop up, we can, and we're presenting you to our clients and saying, hey, I really think you should look at this person. Her and I have been talking about this for a year. I called her about your company. I told her you guys are doing exactly what she wanted to do. She's so excited to talk to you. Having that rapport to lean on is such a different candidate experience and such a different interview that they're walking into than um, I applied for a position online and here I am now because I need a job.
Yeah.
That's a completely different approach to an interview. So yeah,
Yeah. And you made a good point earlier. The crossover from passive job search to active job search can just happen so quickly.
yes,
And so if you know somebody, if you are talking to a candidate and maybe they're actively job searching or maybe seeing the writing on the wall that there may be an active job search on the horizon, what are some things you would do or you would suggest that they do to get themselves in order for making that leap into an active job search?
yeah. Well, it's always important that we define our terms.
Mhm.
So what is your timeline for something new? Just had a conversation with a candidate and she was like, yeah, I think I'm going to be looking for a new position soon. Okay, what does that mean? In her mind, soon was early next year.
Mhm.
That's not how I would define soon. So, really talking through her timeline and understanding the whys behind it. Are there financial things that are keeping you in place where you are now? We need to talk through those things. What are you wanting to hang on for? What are you willing to walk away from for what's going to be offered to you with a new company?
Mhm.
What is your timeline in terms of the projects that you need to wrap up? When you would realistically and feasibly be able to start a position with the obligations that you have for your current company? What do those things look like? Vacations, travel you have planned where maybe it may not make sense to take a new position until I, get back from that
Mhm.
10-day trip to Europe I have planned. Whatever those things are, identifying what your timeline is going to be, and then identifying the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, and what are the flat-out no's.
Mhm.
So these can be things like, I'm really interested in working in this scientific area. I am looking for something that alters my travel, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. I am looking for something on the compensation front, really nailing down what that is.
Mhm.
If you watched our compensation episode, we covered all of the different components that one person may have from one company to another.
Mhm.
Somebody making $200,000 with a 20% bonus at one company is very different than another company, given their long-term incentives,
Mhm.
the way the company handles their car, all of the components look so different from one company to another. So really understanding what you're looking for there, what you're looking for on the leadership standpoint and the organization of leadership within the company, what that looks like,
Mhm.
how big of a team you want to be on, all of these things. What are the must haves? What are the nice to haves? What are the reasons that you're leaving your current opportunity so we can make sure that we don't put you in another situation just like that. So understanding that, what you are willing to walk away from and what you are looking for in that next opportunity. And then also getting really realistic about what the status is in the current market,
Mhm.
what competition looks like. We're in a market right now where there are a lot fewer positions than there were 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So there are more qualified and experienced candidates on the market, which can make it harder to get through an interview process and end up at those end stages when there's so many candidates interviewing for one position. So really understanding the market is important not only for how you approach the interview, but that timeline as
Mhm.
well. And so understanding where we are from a market standpoint and the number of positions available, especially if you have something very particular in mind that you're interested to do. And then, what it might look like to kind of take a step back in order to take a step forward. What are you willing to compromise on in order to ultimately go in the direction that you want with your career?
Mhm.
Trying to understand some of those things. Sometimes that's needed, sometimes it's not. But what are the ultimate goals and what changes do we need to make to help you kind of achieve that?
Mhm.
And lastly, I would say, talking to your STEM bio recruiter about all of the components that we just discussed, but ultimately, if they are helping you to reach the goals that you have in terms of the type of environment that you're looking for. Maybe
Mhm.
it's different leadership. The person who is at the helm of the team, the manager itself. Maybe it's somebody you know from a previous company, or maybe you're looking to get into an organization where there's more experience management, experience leadership that can really foster the growth that you're looking for. Depending on what that type of environment is, these are things that you want to consider and really think about as you're approaching your job search because each of these elements are things that we can help you understand.
Yeah.
So, um, I think that how we interview MSLs throughout the year with each call, each conversation, each end of the year check-in, each center of the year check-in, whether it's a specific job we're calling about or whether we're just calling to catch up. All of these things that we learn about the candidates, about what they're really looking for, little comments that they share in passing. I just hope they understand that this is all helping us to guide them to the right
Mhm.
position that they're looking for and find the perfect candidate for our clients also, because we already know their hot buttons and what they're really interested in. And so it's really mutually beneficial for all parties when we get to have those dialogues.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would add a word of caution just on all those things you mentioned. I know that we give this advice to some of our candidates that we know a little more closely, but as you're out there on your job search, whether actively or passively, you're going to hear a lot of chatter among your friends about, oh, I got offered this at this company, or this company's doing this over here. I would say
Mhm.
take all the chatter, the advice, things like that with a grain of salt. We as recruiters, we oftentimes have a lot of the really behind the scenes information from the hiring manager themselves. And so, I feel like we have a good take on things, but we do hear a lot of chatter that kind of flies in the face of what we know to be true. So we do kind of urge candidates that you hear a lot of advice and other things like that from friends in industry, leading you this way or that. And so definitely just take the advice with a grain of salt, or even approach your recruiter and say, "Hey, I've been hearing this. What are you seeing?"
Yeah.
We're happy to share with you anything that we know, like
Yeah.
you were referencing earlier, that we're happy to guide you in the straightest path as possible based on our knowledge and our relationships with our clients and hiring managers. And so that's
Yeah.
my word of caution as we talk about the job search and folks who are just getting out there, maybe dipping their toe into the water and
Yeah.
stepping from that passive search to the active search. Um, so this has all been really great information. I hope this has answered a lot of your questions about active job searching and passive job searching. And of course, if you have any questions about this topic that we didn't answer and want to get in touch with us, be sure to check the link below in the show notes. I think we have a link there for you. So we'd love to hear from you, answer any questions, address them. Just let us know what information we can share with you. And of course, if you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, we would love that as well. Follow us on YouTube as well. And we're going to have some more great episodes coming your way very shortly. But thank you so much for joining us for our talk on job searches, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share the link, let your friends know, and of course, connect with us on LinkedIn. And if you want more information on today's topic, please feel free to reach out. Be sure to check back soon as we continue to explore the topics that matter most to you in medical affairs.